Jamaica Teaching Council bill is one step closer to becoming law. Well, it only has the hurdle of passage through the lower house to navigate before it goes to the Governor General for his signing and then gazetting, and it becomes law. But there's a former Jamaica Teachers Association president who says there are several troubling aspects to the pending legislation, and he wants to raise awareness about these issues to have them ironed out before he'll be comfortable with what should be the abiding law by which the teaching profession will effectively be regulated. Owen Speid is my guest this evening on Lead Story. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story on this Tuesday, April 29, 2025. Recall on Monday's show, I had a conversation at the tail end with the former JTA President Owen Speid talking about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill. It wasn't enough time for Owen Speid to do his comments justice, and so we've brought him back here this evening for a wholesome discussion. Before we do that, though, the People's National Party, they called a press conference earlier on this Tuesday to opine on certain aspects of the Jamaica Teaching Council bill. Recall that the bill passed through the Senate with bipartisan support across the political divide. So it is needful for us to hear, subsequent to that, what the opposition has to say about this JTC bill. And we'll play for you now the comments of the opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford.
We are not against regulation, but we ask for Section 4 to be amended to clearly exempt community volunteers, such as Ms. Dassa up in a dying community who has taken on the responsibility of hosting students on our veranda for our veranda basic, private tutors below a certain teaching threshold, and church and informal instructors. Introduce a volunteer class registration without fees or full regulation for non-profit, non-formal educators. Create separate regulatory categories for full-time professional teachers, private tutors, and informal educators. Protect parental rights and educational freedom by shielding homeschool groups and co-ops from criminalization. And also support educational innovation, ensuring that the law does not suppress community-based initiatives. Indeed, we are not against teachers being fit and proper, nor are we against teachers being competent to teach. However, we want these to be defined so that they can be cognizant of what fit and proper is before they face the music. Also, we hope that they understand fully what competent to teach is, as many teachers are fearful that this may be sneaking through the back door, performance pay. And there are some people who say, oh, it's the teacher's fault. I want to make a bet with any Jamaicans willing to take it up. Swap all the teachers from Campion to Holy Trinity, and swap all the teachers from Holy Trinity to Campion. And you tell me if Campion will become Holy Trinity, and Holy Trinity will become Campion. The reality is that that will definitely not be so. We want to require the council to issue written reasons to protect persons. We are not against regulation, but we are against the punitive nature of this bill. Establish a legal defense fund or provide state-sponsored legal aid for accused teachers. We have already seen this happening with the police when they face indicum. Even after they're cleared, they're punished with the cost of legal representation, sometimes up to millions of dollars, though they are cleared. So therefore, we want this legal defense fund to be set up. And if there's any fee, it should go directly to the legal defense fund. Guarantee the right to face and respond to one's accuser. Prohibit double jeopardy. Guarantee salary continuation while you are in the process of appeal. And implement a proportional penalty framework so that the cost of teaching without a license isn't almost 10 times the cost of driving without a license. Now, driving without a license must have greater hazardous and risk to the society than the risk of teaching. There is no proportionality. We're also saying that we want schools to remain flexible. This bill seems to have borrowed what happens in many more developed countries without considering our realities and our situation. I know in some areas in the United States, they have replacement teachers on call and substitutes. And the region will send a substitute as soon as the principal requires. We don't have that situation.
Senator Damian Crawford, the opposition spokesman on education, going through some aspects of the Jamaica Teaching Council bill with which the opposition takes serious issue. More on this matter after the break. We'll be hearing from Owen Speid.
Your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. We've got everything. Stocking top brands like CNCs, Philips, and Allen Bradley. We guarantee quality and reliability. Shop with us and save with even free island-wide delivery. Conditions apply. Visit us at Shop 8 Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10. Call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in electrical business.
When you talk about soca royalty, this is what you're talking about. When Bungie meet Faye and Bungie say, yes, so the book stop, you know. Were you pregnant?
Oh yes, I definitely was pregnant. I had her 6 days later.
Yeah. Well, Faye, man. There's an unspoken rivalry there. We even war over KFC, mother. Well, that is not really a war still.
Somebody take off this microphone, please. Or cut the show off, you know. Or you want to come and give me on a freestyle in front of the media a big word like encyclopedia? Watch here. All right, Wayne Marshall, thank you very much.
Look at him. I told you, this man is not a normal human being.
The Cut, brought to you by Flow.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. So for context, this Jamaica Teaching Council bill, of course, is the stage before it passes into law. Bill is debated in Parliament, amendments made. Then by vote, by assent, the Parliament approves, whichever level of the House of Parliament, the upper house or the lower house, both have to do that. And then it goes forward to be signed by the Governor General, signed into law and then gazetted, and then we are hitting the road running. This Jamaica Teaching Council bill has been in the works for 21 years, I remind the viewers, across administrations. Dana Morris Dixon is the 6th Minister of Education who has attempted to close the loop on completing the groundwork to pass this Jamaica Teaching Council law. Yeah? 6th Education Minister. 21 years later, we're one step away from it becoming law. And I remind the viewers as well that this bill was passed in the Senate last Friday, April 25, with 38 amendments. So when it went to the Senate for debate, things that were pointed out by senators who contributed to the debate, including Senator Crawford, those objections, those concerns, those things they pointed out amounted to 38 changes being made to the bill that was carried fresh for debate. Okay, that's the context. I turn now to former JTA president, former principal rather, of Rousseau Primary, a man who taught for 18 years in Jamaica, was in administration for 15 more, so 33 years inside the classroom before migrating to work in the United States. Owen Speid, a Portland man, is with me this evening. Good evening, sir. Welcome back to Lead Story.
Good evening. Thanks for the introduction. I am here.
All right, let's get cracking now. You raised some issues yesterday, and I want to come to you from this perspective. The bill, like so many pieces of legislation, is not perfect. But in the case of this teaching council bill, it's not for want of trying. If 2 decades and 6 education ministers later, we can't get it right. When are we proposing to get this thing right, Sir Owen?
Maybe when I return to Jamaica. But on a serious note, though, it needs some more work. I mean, when you look at the first thing I'd like to say is that they are making it look too punitive in terms of and there's inequity in terms of the fines and so on. When you look at, and the fact that it could make a teacher be blessed or cursed with a criminal record, it's not satisfying to me. But the punishment should fit the crime. And what we're seeing is that to drive on the roads of Jamaica, a man could drive without a driver's license on the roads of Jamaica, maybe a big trailer or whatever else, and cause serious damage. And the most you can find that gentleman in the courts of Jamaica is $40,000. But somebody could drive and cause death as a result of dangerous driving on the roads, and the maximum you can charge that person is $250,000. Why is it that we are seeing them trying to push the fine from, it was $500,000 first. I can remember that when Minister Reid was there, he put that in there. And then we talked to him about that as the JTA representatives. He insisted that the fine has to be in there. But we are now seeing it move from 500,000 up to 1.5 million. The punishment should fit the crime. And I mean, even if you charge teachers $50,000, that would be a mammoth sum for them anyway, because teachers cannot afford to lose even 5,000.
Yeah.
Right?
But let me take you up on that point. Let me take you up on that point. I allowed that to slide yesterday because we didn't have much time. I don't want you to get as much as you could in. But let's face it. Yeah. Fines, as with any piece of legislation, it's 1.5 million is a ceiling, and it's up to the skill of the counsel representing the teacher and the case made out that will determine what the justice hands down at the end of the day. That's one. And then two, we make the point, and look, I know the point you're making about the equity where the fine structure is concerned is a very serious one. But I don't want to water down that point by comparing it to a driver driving without a license, because it could very well be, there are many cases in which a driver can be out there without a valid driver's license. You, by the time you return from the Carolinas to Jamaica, your driver's license could have been expired. I'm sure you've been driving since you're about 18, 17. Hold on. You've been driving for a long time. So even if you don't have a valid driver's license and you are driving, I mean, your skill is still there. This issue is about the skill and competence of someone. So what I'm saying to you, Owen Speid, is this. The point you're making is strong. I don't want you to cast it that way, because there are many points of attack if you compare it to driving without a driver's license.
Yeah, but I'm not afraid of attacks. What I can tell you, George, is that you said a lot of things there. One thing about obtaining a renewed driver's license is that you will go down to the office downtown at the tax office or anywhere in Jamaica, and you'll get that driver's license replaced the same day. We have had the JTC trying to license people for 15 years. Yeah. That's 365 days in a year. That's 5,475 days they are trying to license people. And up till this point, I cannot find one teacher in Jamaica who can produce something that looks like this and tell me that this is the license that they get.
And that's a problem.
For trying for 15 years.
And that's a problem. Right? That's the problem right there.
So the point I'm making, and when you talk about competence to teach, the point I'm making is that there are no descriptors in this bill to define competence to teach or fit and proper to teach. There are no.
Hold on, let me take you up on that again. Let me take you up on that again, because you made that point yesterday. But so here's the thing. When you say the bill does not have any descriptors about competence to teach, the bill would not have that, because like a normal piece of legislation, when you read, you would know, I'm sure, many pieces of legislation are to be read in concert, in tandem with the Interpretation Act, which is a piece of legislation by itself. That gives life to the definition of certain. But hold on, let me make the point. I'm going to give you a right of response. So I'm saying to you that when you talk about competence to teach, a reasonable person, especially one who would serve the Jamaica Teaching Council as set out in this piece of legislation, would know how to assess competence, would know how to assess fit and proper, because fit and proper is a standard part of the assessment in any structured way of doing things in any serious organization. So people with the knowledge in the organization know what a competent person in that field is.
What you need to know, George, is that there are many people on the council who has never set foot in a teacher's college, much less in a classroom to teach. They don't understand teaching any at all. I want to tell you that. And let me go further to tell you that what they have as descriptor for competence to teach is so subjective that they are using the ad hoc kind of professional development sessions that go on in schools in Jamaica, across the length and breadth of Jamaica, ad hoc, where one school, it's not standardized any at all. One school could decide they want to do this as PD, another school decides, and right around Jamaica, that's how it is structured. And I'm telling you that that cannot be superseding the accredited universities that people attend. And you need to know this too, that there are many teachers who end for 9 years in teaching. They train to become a teacher for 9 years. They did the diploma first for 3 years, then they do 4 more years for bachelor's and maybe 2 or 3 for master's. It's a lot of years that many teachers train themselves.
Yes.
And what you're doing with this bill, you are saying to people, we are going to use your ongoing professional development certification, and that should supersede the people's years of training.
Well, that's not how I read it. That's not how I read that it is superseding. I see it weighing, being a weighty element of the assessment matrix. Well, hold the point there. Let me take a break and come right back. Let me take a break and come right back. And of course, I'll hear more from you. Owen Speid, former JTA president, talking about what he believes are the deficiencies where the Jamaica Teaching Council bill is concerned, and then the supporting, the other facilitations around the bill for which he believes that, look, this thing needs a lot more work before it can be passed into law. More after this.
Join my private room. Only $1,000 for a grand time.
That I know me. We never said that. But who going to believe me?
That is correct. $4,350,000. Yes, go ahead. $4 million? I never approved that.
Yes, me go doctor tomorrow. So me have to get the money today, no longer. Then no me face that. We never make no record or beg nobody no money.
Deepfakes are AI-generated images and videos made to look and sound like people we know and trust. They're used to spread misinformation, destroy reputations, and are used to commit fraud and scams. Don't fall victim to deepfakes. Protect yourself. For more information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or scan the QR code on screen.
Rise with Sunrise. It's your midweek push. We start your day with Wednesday service, then it's all about Mentorship Day 2025. We'll head to the shelves in Sunrise Book Club, and the fun wraps up in WAGs. Brought to you by TruePet. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Welcome back to Lead Story. We're talking about the Jamaica Teaching Council bill, which sets out a mechanism for the regulation of the teaching profession, the regulation of teachers, the critical importance of ensuring that those who are in the classroom instructing are competent enough to do so, and where discipline is concerned, the Jamaica Teaching Council bill exists. Jamaica Teaching Council, which the bill hopes to set up under law, exists to deal with the issue of discipline. Recall very well that issue at St. James High, where there's a school principal in place and a board that are at loggerheads. Arbitrary calls made to shut down school for a day because of the dispute between principal and board member, not knowing who instigated the shutdown. School being held hostage to these kind of things, and no competent authority able to step in and exercise veto power. Those are some of the things that the bill would hope to lead to a decisive conclusion to. Owen Speid, the former JTA president, or a former JTA president, is my guest. I say this to you, Owen Speid. What I am looking at where this bill is concerned is, as you say, several questions that can be asked about certain aspects of it. But I'm not for a moment fooling myself into believing that there is some way that a perfect piece of legislation can be crafted, given the issues that teachers will have, do have, and have had in the past. And also, I'm not for a minute naive to the fact that we are in a position to get something going and to contribute to the amendments going forward, as happens with any other piece of legislation. So why do I get the impression that there are certain people who believe that we should go back to the drawing board with something that has been on the drawing board for 21 years?
No. There's no doubt in my mind that there are improvements needed in the system. There's no doubt that we need controls. There's no doubt that we need something that is a little bit more objective and so on. What we are finding is that this is some sections of the bill is leaving it too much up to subjectivity. And that is what I'm saying. The fact that you don't have any descriptors to describe really what is competence to teach and fit and proper to teach in the bill anywhere at all, then a principal can just get up and say, well, this teacher, because she wears this kind of clothing, she's just not competent to teach.
What does the U.S. define competence to teach as? You've been in the U.S. system. What does the U.S. define competence to teach as? And is there a universal definition across the United States?
It is a lot of things that you would have to put together. I can't just, and it is immaterial what I am going to describe it as. What is important is that it is described and you have the descriptors in this bill.
But here's why it's not unimportant.
Hold on, George. Then George, if you put me on the spot and I'm talking, then you have to allow me at least finish. I am saying to you, the descriptors that are there must not leave it themselves too open to subjectivity, where people's personalities and ego and all this thing can come into effect. I am saying that in the bill, there is nothing that says you have to do standardized. For example, George, you do standardized PDs, where they say you must complete these. In Jamaica, it's not how it works. What then is that schools do a PD which at a level or a higher level than other schools. In America, that these PDs must completed and you must score over 80%. That's not done in the system that we have there in Jamaica. So it's going to leave the teachers wide open to something. So what I'm suggesting, George, is that the JTC, because we can only talk about them, one solution is that the JTC should provide some standardized professional development. Get the slides out, get the videos out, and you know that every teacher across Jamaica will do this.
But here's the point I'm making. Here's the point I want to make. I'm saying to you that where the legislation is concerned, Owen Speid, you would not expect that to be a part of the law. What you would expect that to be, hold on. What you expect that to be is a part of, hold on, I'm going to give you the response. What you would expect that to be, where that you'd expect that to be. The regulations will take care of that, along with when the Jamaica Teaching Council begins to do work. And remember, the law says, the bill says, it should be established as a body corporate. You know what that is. So as a body corporate with a CEO, an attorney at law, an administrative structure, that's when the kind of standardization and homogeneity that you correctly identify as lacking, that's where that comes in. You don't expect to see that in the legislation written out.
you expect to see it mentioned in a general way that they will do standardized professional development sessions, and they should complete at least 3 or at least 5.
But that's for the JTC to pronounce on, Owen. So we're not disagreeing. That's for the JTC when it is functioning to pronounce on and then follow through with the deliverables, with the tangible step-by-step basis to assess competence and to do training so that, as you say, it's not hearum, scarum and chaka-chaka.
Thank you. So we are not disagreeing on that, George. So I don't know why you're going around it.
No. We took a long while to come to agreement. But I'm saying, so what I'm saying is that, Owen, those things would not be in the legislation. What it will be is in the regulations, and it will become apparent when the JTC sets about its work. That's when you pressure them to say, oh, where is the standardized assessment? So that's where that goes.
But George, you alluded to the fact that they have been working on this thing for 21 years. You are telling me that for 21 years they couldn't do all of what you just said a while ago? Come on,
I can't answer that. That's a point. That's a good point. That's a good point right there.
Don't go wrong with that. And I'm saying to you that there needs to be some more structure in the JTC in terms of even the licensing itself. Because as I pointed out to you earlier, you can walk down to the tax administration of Jamaica and you get your license renewed in 1 day, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever. If you know somebody down there, you leave it with them and they give it, work on it, and they give it back to you. I am saying that in the JTC, no, they are working on this thing for 21 years. And you want to tell me that not even one person in Jamaica has a license yet?
Yeah.
Nobody, all of the groups that I have touched. I've touched so many groups. I am in touch with Jamaica more than you know, George, the teachers of Jamaica, you know.
But it's your constituency, so I would expect you to be. Anyway, I'm out of time. I have to go. The news at 7 is upon me. I have to go. So guess what? We'll spar another time, but I appreciate the perspectives, and this is what we need to inform the next steps, because we have to close the loop on this legislation. We can't retain it for much longer.
True, yes.
All right, so we'll talk again.
Yeah, man.
Thank you very much. Owen Speid, speaking to us from the United States, where he's living and working now, former JTA president with strong views on the Jamaica Teaching Council bill. And he's not misguided, you know. He's making a solid contribution on several points, even though I feel that there are certain things that properly will not be in legislation written out in the bill, or in the act rather, but will be in the regulations. And when the Jamaica Teaching Council starts to do its work, I maintain that. Anyway. That's my time. News is up next. Don't forget, Lead Story Prime, 8 p.m. this evening. We'll look at Trump's second coming. And of course, what happened in Trinidad and Tobago on Monday? Kamla Prasad Bisesar, she's back. From politics to global events, from social issues to breaking news, Lead Story Prime dives deeper, cuts through the noise, and uncovers the stories that shape your world. Join us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for Lead Story Prime with me, George Davis, for an hour of incisive analysis, expert interviews, and unparalleled coverage of the issues you care about. Lead Story Prime, your front row seat to the most compelling discussions. Lead Story Prime, where the truth comes first. Only on CVMTV.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Fort.
Jamaica is on a transformative path, and the Ministry of